babysitting little kids, and the second they get bored or start to frustrate you, you just hand them your phone, or you give them the iPad, or you turn on the TV. Because if you're guilty of this, don't worry, I have done the same many times, and so many other people in the world do this every single day, way too much. Last summer, I nannied 2 little kids, and when I did this, I started to realize how big of an issue this actually is. Because I could not try and even get them to do other activities without them throwing a tantrum or throwing a fit because they didn't know how else to entertain themselves. So in nannying, I realized that this was a much bigger, this had way more to do with the parents than it had to do with the children, because parents are the ones that are training them to want this screen time and to not know how to do anything else. And so because of that, today I will be informing you all why screen time is so commonly used for children, the negative effects that too much of it has on children, and how we can help them to use their time in a more beneficial and healthy way. A movement called Action for Healthy Kids states that today the majority of American children spend more than 7 hours a day on screen time and less than 1 hour a day outside. Why has it become this way? Because screen time is convenient. People do not like to do anything that is going to bring them inconvenience. As adults, we have a lot to be doing each day, right? We have to buy groceries, clean the house, go to work, go to school. And children are starting to be seen as an inconvenience, which is so sad. According to Google, the definition of inconvenience is trouble or difficulty caused to one's personal requirements or comfort. And this is the exact reason that children are overdosing on screen time, because people do not want to have to stop what they're doing or bring difficulty or inconvenience into their personal schedules and responsibilities. So I have a personal example of this. I was on a long airplane flight a couple of months ago, and there was a child sitting in front of me next to his 2 parents. And he was well behaved for periods of time, and then after so long he would become antsy and he would start to become upset. And as soon as this happened, the parents would just hand him the iPad. They wouldn't even try to talk to him. They wouldn't try to talk, like read a book, do anything besides just hand him the iPad. And this was super sad because it was obvious that the parents just didn't want to stop reading their book and watching the movie. And so this is a good example of the child being an inconvenience to the parents. According to the AHA, for younger children aged 2 to 5, the recommended limit is 1 hour a day. So as we can see, children are spending way too much time than they should. And so that being said, most people do not realize how much harm is being done to children by spending this much time on screens. So we are going to talk about some of the mental and physical side effects that come from overdosing on screen time. So to start, the first physical side effect could be short-term and long-term vision impairment. So have you ever noticed that when you look at your phone for too long, your eyes start to become itchy or watery or red and start to burn? According to blue light researcher Dr. Kara Hartle, people blink 66% less when they are staring at screens, which leads to these telltale symptoms of dryness, redness, eye strain, blurred vision, and so on. These are what we notice short term, but we do not realize how much is actually being done to our eyes for the long term. When we're older, those children's eyes are going to be so much worse because of how much they're looking at screens. So along with vision impairment, screen time has also been seen as a contributing factor in obesity in children and in adults. And you're probably wondering how is this correlated? Well, when children are on screens, they start to snack a lot of the time. And because they're so distracted by what they're looking at, a lot of the times their bodies tune out these clues that are telling them to stop eating because they're full. And so they just keep eating and eating, and then they gain weight. Along with that, they are exposed to commercials and advertising that talks about unhealthy eating or snacks, and so that makes them want those snacks even more. And lastly, CBS News tells us that blue light from screens can hinder a child's ability to fall asleep, and lack of sleep may contribute to obesity risk. So now that we've seen a couple of the physical effects, let's talk about the mental side of things. Spending too much time on screen time can bring poor emotional development and social skills in children. children are focusing so much on screens each day that they are missing out on critical social skills that they need to learn, because they're not interacting with others and they're not learning from people and being able to pick up on social cues and social norms. So research gives us a few examples of those critical skills that they are missing out on. First, we have survival skills, such as listening, ignoring distractions, and using positive self-talk. Then we have interpersonal skills, such as sharing, asking for permission, taking turns, and joining activities. Next, we have problem-solving skills, such as asking for help, accepting responsibility and consequences, and joining activities. And lastly, we have conflict resolution skills, such as being able to deal with losing, accusations, and peer pressure. So as you can tell, it is not good for a child to not be learning these skills, because they're going to need these for the rest of their life. But screen time is not always bad. So now that we've seen some of the bad things, and there are many, many more bad things, but I don't have enough time to talk about all of those things. Screen time is not always bad. If you find a good balance between screen time and doing activities with people in real life, your child can actually learn a lot of things that they would not be able to learn otherwise, because there's good learning apps. They can gain education and information and ideas that could be super helpful and beneficial to them. So, although there are a lot of bad things that can come from screen time, luckily there are ways to avoid these things. So parents and adults are the main reason that children are spending so much time on screen time, right? And one day we'll all be parents. We'll have to take care of a child. So it is our responsibility to know how to set limits and encourage children to do other healthier activities. The most important thing that a child could need is a parent or adult that is present and involved in their life. Dr. Narula states that when you're with your kids, you really need to be good about putting your phone down and talking to them and being engaged, because they pick up on exactly what you're doing. And this is super, super true, and I've witnessed this in my life. You know, you say a word and all of a sudden your little brother is saying that word, or whatever it is, they pick up on exactly what's happening around them, and it is super important for them to be surrounded by uplifting and motivated people, media, and activities. So, the next important thing is to find ideas of things to do besides screen time with your children. And some of those ideas could be going to the park, reading a book, playing a board game, going for a walk or a bike ride, drawing, or even building a fort. It doesn't matter what it is. These things mean a lot more to a child than you realize, because they need that attention and love, and they need to know that they are seen, and it's really good for them. And so now that you guys all know why children are spending so much time on screen time, the negative effects that it can bring, and how to help them use their time in a more beneficial and useful way, I encourage you all to get up and do something with the child next time they're bored, or next time you're babysitting, or even when you're an adult, because those things mean a lot more to a child than you realize.